I've always loved that Lenny Bruce bit. I hate small towns because once you see the cannon in the park, there's nothing else to do. I feel like most cities and towns have that one place, the place where we commemorate fallen soldiers from early colonial battles. There's always cannons or a wall and some sort of plaque. It's a pretty typical thing. We call it legacy. These kinds of places are pretty regular in towns all over. It's common to see families or tourists taking photos by the plaque during the day, and then married dudes at night, meeting men on the DL. Oh yeah, they park their cars with their child seat in the back, then wander out into the dark, hoping to get lucky. No questions asked, leaning up against the ghost of colonialism past, no judgment, no regrets, just them and legacy. I used to approach my art with the mentality of whatever I was doing in this moment, it needed to benefit me in the future. It was a mentality of everything has to move forward. Not artistically, but like career-wise, productivity. And I was very much exhausted and anxious from it. Like very much so. Very much worried about what everybody else was doing, and that really affected me. I even had a vision board at one point. I remember in like the early, when that was popular, the whole, I had cut out from a magazine like a Mustang or like in a muscle car and a beach, which I don't know what a beach had to do with writing jokes, but for some reason I glued it on a Bristol board and stared at it. Then after COVID lockdowns, I faced a truth that I enjoyed like just writing jokes and creating comedy. I didn't want to make content. I wanted to create comedy. I wanted to do the art. And that wasn't on the vision board. Not chasing the benefits, but living in the actual process was the conclusion that I came to. And it was very liberating, that truth. Camus had a word for it. He called it absurdism. We are a race of people who are just builders of monuments. There's something about, let's just having the ability to look at something and go, wow, that mattered, right? Like we love plaques and cannons and walls and tapestries. There's something about standing in a place and feeling that feeling. And that's not fake. That feeling is very real. Like I've been to so many of these kinds of places, and you could feel the weight of history in the walls. I'd be lying if I didn't have a moment of reverence when I walked into these places. There's something about the architecture that makes you just pause for a moment. Like go into a cathedral and and it's just those old ones, and it's that cathedral ceilings, that arc, that high up in the paintings, and you don't have to believe in Jesus or anything, but you can feel it, right? It makes you stand up a bit. Your posture straightens a bit. And the White House is like I grew up watching that on TV and in the movies. It has this place in in the zeitgeist. Will Smith fought aliens who blew it up.
Welcome to Earth.
And then Donald Trump comes along and he's going to alter the whole thing. He wants to put up his ballroom, and he's got those gaudy gold lettering all over the place, and he's going to have UFC on the lawn. It feels like blasphemy. Like the building itself feels sacred because presidents were there. But the building's wood and nails, right? Like they could make anything the White House, and they almost did. They showed a Klan movie at the White House in the 1900s. So why would men beating concussions into each other be a problem now? The symbol becomes low-bearing for something that isn't a symbol. The building itself is wood, but what we've stored inside, that's yours. And so when someone moves the furniture around, it feels like violence, even if the furniture wasn't real. And we don't just do this with buildings, we do it with ourselves and our own lives. Retirement is a backwards institution. Like the idea that you should suffer in your youth so that at a shitty job, so that when you get older, you can take the time off. That's a concept that we live by. I was told this idea like in my 20s, and I used to go to work with this just overwhelming weight. They told me, work at least 45 years in this job, and hopefully one day you might be able to retire when your knees don't work. It's a waste of time. Working when you're young is a waste of youth. It's just a waste of your joie de vivre as a young person. You work in this horrible building with bad lighting the entire time thinking about how you're wasting your time, or you could be doing better things than this. I wish they had a mattress testing company. I could work there. Or if I take another 20-minute washroom break, will my supervisor notice? I'd rather have that work be put on my old body. I'll be honest with you. We should let old people make stuff. Let them run the production economy. Sure, the morning commute would suck, and, the fashion would be terrible because everyone's wearing their pants to their nipples, but I think that's a small price to pay for freedom. And here's the weird thing. Once people escape this whole kind of thing, they immediately go back to work, meaningful work anyway. Right? When you get old, what's the first thing you do? You start becoming a horticulturalist. You start tending a garden 24/7 on your knees, breaking your back. They spend 45 years waiting for freedom and then immediately throw it away. Their suffering didn't teach them anything. The freedom did. And I know these stories work because I believe them myself. I worked so many factory jobs. And I hated them, and that was a narrative. I felt the weight of the meaningless work, and like just the need to pay bills. And that was true, right? Like that's a true thing, but it's still a narrative. I'd wake up every morning and get in my car, and especially in the winter, and just like you had that peace of just getting to work, but that dread and smelling the same smells every day and getting sick of those, saying to yourself like 45 times on a Tuesday, thank God the weekend's coming. And in the back of my mind, it was always, is this my legacy? Is this what I'm leaving behind? Factory work? Because I understood, even though I probably didn't have the vocabulary for it, that I live in a system where I'm not just a consumer, I'm also a product. So my legacy also becomes part of my value, my worth. And so is this factory job my worth? And if that's what that means, what does it say about someone who makes more money and has more opportunities and, better connections? Are they worth more than me? I've worked long enough in factories to know that the idea of legacy, that's horseshit. I've seen people with money, access, and power, and whatever. People in charge can be morons. I worked in a freezer 8 hours a day, and they decided as a motivational to hand out freezies at the end of one day of a shift. Morons. That's the thing about factories, man. It's a great leveler. It'll let you know very quickly that life is not meritocratic. The only honest work is the work you do knowing it doesn't matter. Once you see that legacy is like worth with a glow up, you realize none of it really matters. The thing about exceptionalism is it needs a bottom. Someone has to be forgotten so somebody else can be remembered. Think about who's on the plaque and you're out there, right? That's where the power lives. The monument isn't a tribute, it's a selection. Somebody decided somebody else counts. The idea that some people's suffering is noble and other people's suffering is just Tuesday, that's not natural. That's hierarchy, and hierarchies always need maintenance. Legacy is that maintenance. It makes the hierarchy feel like justice. It makes it feel natural. It makes it feel right. Legacy is the story that explains why some suffering counts and why some doesn't. It's a very efficient system. The self-help industry creates problems that it claims it could solve. You know, they tell you to get in shape or wear this shirt or drive this car, and your whole life will be in order, creating an idea of happiness that you don't even know you want. And if you don't believe me, look at any passenger bleeding from their hair plugs on a flight from Turkey. And I'm not outside this. I'm sitting here creating a YouTube video about not needing to be remembered. This is the 7th draft of the script. I'm going to post this on TikTok with full SEO, with no irony. I'm fully in it. And I do the same thing with productivity apps. I download so many productivity apps with the idea that I'm going to make my life better. It's going to improve my productivity. I fully realize that I'm addicted to them. I've gone through so many because they feel new and they feel like change. And I'm not sure if it's purely my ADHD, but it's also how branding works. If I get this thing on my phone that allows me to take photos of my molars and upload them in Obsidian, then I'll be able to clean my teeth better. And all of these apps promise the same thing. The last app promise, it's make my life easier. But I just end up working harder on understanding the app and the endless productivity systems with their horrible acronyms, so I can have 8 minutes at the end of my life. Like, I need an MIT system like I need a GUN in my MOUTH. There's a place in every town, a canon, the plaque is gone or you can't read it. Kids don't play near it anymore. There are other things to do, screens, malls, nothing. The canon just sits. But sometimes, on a Tuesday night, you'll see a car parked nearby, engine running, windows fogged, child seat in the back, and the unanswered phone keeps buzzing. Dinner's getting cold.